Hi everyone, Matteo here, and this is Pietro, the first vertical flat burst manual grinder. In this video I want to share with you my honest review about this grinder. Okay, let's start with looking at the size of the grinder. As you can see, the grinder is quite big, let's say, compared to other manual hand grinder. For example, here is a Comandante, so you can see the Pietro is taller, is wider, and also weighs a bit more. The Comandante weighs around 600 grams, Pietro 1600 grams. Now, if you're a bit sensible about the size and the weight, maybe this grinder is not suitable for you. For example, if you want to bring it with you traveling, you have to understand that weight quite a lot, so they can take weight out from the luggage, for example, or if you want to put it in your backpack, you know that you're gonna carry 1 kilo 600 grams of grinder. But if you're looking for a manual grinder for home, maybe this can be a good choice. Now, in this video I'm not going to compare the Comandante with the Pietro because they are different. Comandante has a conical burst, when Pietro, as I said before, is vertical flat burst manual grinder. In this video we'll talk about the grinding quality of Pietro in a minute, but I have to say that sometimes good technology needs space to be developed. Now, how it works? Pretty simple. You select the grind size that you prefer. We're going to explain more about the grinding setting later, but yeah, you decide the grinding setting that you want, then you lift the lid, and then you place your favorite coffee inside, close, you take out the lever, and then you go grinding. The coffee will pass through the burst and then collect it into the jar that you find underneath. Now, I'm not a big fan of this jar for two reasons. First of all, the shape, the internal shape, and second, the internal color. The internal shape is not 100% friendly when we use it to pour beans inside the grinder or the grounds in the brewer, because the side ridges that you see inside act as a ramp and lead some of the compounds outside the pouring range. About the color, I really don't like this fully black inside, because in case of low source of light, for example in winter, when you want to prepare your coffee in the morning, that maybe you don't use a lot of light, there is not a lot of light outside. It's not helpful in case you want to verify the presence of the ground coffee inside or the state of dirtiness of the jar. Another thing that is a bit confusing for the users is how to handle the grinder during grinding. I let several people try the grinder and see what was their approach on handling the grinder during the usage. I saw some people getting very uncomfortable while they were grinding with Pietro, and I think that this can affect the overall experience. Someone was holding the grinder like this, some like this, and someone like this. I have to say that there is no a perfect way to handle the grinder. What I do is I place my hand like this, so with the fingers I keep the grinder steady, and with the palm of my hand I keep the grinder on the table like this. Now you can grind the coffee by holding it on the counter like this, or you can hold it like this with the belly supporting the base, and then from grinding you end up fishing. Jokes aside, it's up to you how to handle the grinder. You're gonna find the best way. Now let's talk about the lever and the leverage of this grinder. Grinding with Pietro can be easy, but sometimes can be hard. That depends mostly on the kind of beans you are grinding. For example, if you grind dark roast coffee with low density, can be very easy. It's very smooth and very fast. I never found a problem, not even when I grind like very fine for espresso. The problem happens when you grind light roast coffee or coffee with a high density. Here you need a very strong arm to grind the coffee, but sometimes it's not even enough. I found a lot of times like beans stuck in between the burrs and really hard to grind the coffee. That mainly happen when I use light roast coffee, like for example light roast washed Kenya, that I think is really hard to grind, even for regular commercial grinder. So yeah, sometimes like while you are grinding, you feel that the bean stuck. That's because flat burrs are different than conical burrs. Conical burrs has the shape where they facilitate the pushing down of the beans, when with the flat burrs is a bit different because the space is really tight since the beginning. So if you have like a bean that is a bit hard and end up in a bit of weird position, then you can feel that the grinder stuck. Also, the reason why it's a bit hard to grind with Pietro is because the lever is not long enough. I think it's a bit short, so you don't have enough leverage on grinding. For example, with the Comandante using the black crank, that is a good update if you have a Comandante. You have the longer lever, and this will give you like more leverage and grinding like coffee when you grind finer for espresso, for example, or for Moka Pot, and make your life easier. And I think that this is something that Pietro miss, the length of the lever. If it was a bit longer, it would have been easier to grind also light roast coffee. Okay, now let's talk about the positive things about this grinder that I really like. The first thing I want to talk about is the dial. That first of all is with numbers, so it starts from 0 and basically does a full revolution. So it's very easy to understand the grind size, very easy to change the grind size without counting clicks. It's easy when you want to change the coffee, or you can switch between coffees that needs a different grind size if you're using the same brewing method, or even when you want to switch different brewing method. I don't know, I want to grind for Moka Pot, I usually put like a 5, and then it goes on filter, it goes on 8, and then I want to grind for espresso and I go around 2. So it's very easy and it's very immediate, the changing of the dial. Then another thing that I really like about this grinder are the burrs. Pietro fits a 58mm flat burrs, and you can choose between 2 different kinds of burrs. When you purchase, you can choose one of them, but like you can even buy both of them if you have the budget. Why not? And then change it based on what is the coffee that you want to brew, or the style you want to brew, or even like based on the flavor you like from your coffee. And the difference between the 2 burr sets is the grinding curve. So we have the multi-purpose burr set that give us a B model particle size distribution, typical for espresso grinders. Basically, the burrs produce a bit more fines compared to the other burr set, and basically make the grinder suitable for all the brewing methods, let's say espresso, mocha, filter, Turkish coffee as well. So it's, as the name says, multi-purpose. Then we have the pre-brewing burr set that give us a mono model grinding curve, and this basically produces less fines compared to the multi-purpose burr set, and they are more tailored for filter coffee. So now in this video I'm using the multi-purpose, and checking the particle size distribution of this burr set, I have to say that's surprised me a lot. Actually, it doesn't produce a lot of fines compared to other manual grinders, but my favorite thing about these flat burrs is that they produce a low level of boulders, so a big particle of coffee. Because with conical burrs, when we grind coarse, basically for filter coffee, we can notice a higher level of boulders, and these particles can be negative for our coffee because they usually bring sourness and also dryness in the cup. And when with flat burrs, because there is a less production of these particles, it makes our coffee more sweet, more balanced, also with a I say like longer aftertaste. And I think that is a really positive thing about Pietro, is the quality of grinding. Now it's finally time to make some coffee. I will make one espresso, one mocha and one pour over, so I can show you the workflow with Pietro. Okay, for the espresso I'm using a medium roast specialty coffee blend. I will put 19. and I'm going to grind with Pietro at 2. That's what I was saying about the internal shape. Okay, I will use a timer to check how long it will take to grind 19 grams of coffee at 2 with the Pietro. So I'm gonna put the timer here on. Okay, it took 1 minute 20. It's okay, it's not a long time, it's fine. Also with the medium roast, the grinding went kind of smooth, not a problem. I didn't have problem of beans being stuck in between the burrs, so it was fine. Now let's place the coffee in the portafilter. Here the example I was telling you about the ramp. So the problem of these ridges inside is that make the coffee slide from this side and bring the coffee outside the portafilter. That is not ideal. So you just need to be careful. Now I'm distributing the coffee. Nice and flat. How we like. Okay, the shot went good. I did 19 grams ground at 2 with Pietro, with 40 grams out in 22 seconds. I already tried this recipe before, so I'm sure it should be tasty. That's perfect. One thing that I noticed when I make the coffee with Pietro compared to other grinders, even like using the Sage BREW grinder, is the balance, the sweetness and the structure. The coffee usually is more sweet, the mouthfeel is very velvety, it's very nice, the body is really good, medium, high body. Then it also depends about the coffee you're using, but the level of the balance of the espresso, it's really good. I don't have any peak of sourness, acidity, or any peak of bitterness. It's kind of like, it's very smooth. So when you drink this kind of espresso made with Pietro with the flat burst, is really like balance. It's very clean. You get like a lot of flavors. It's not too complex, but I liked very well what are the characteristics of the coffee you're using. Then of course, you need to dial in the coffee, make sure that the recipe, the balance is alright, but when you find the recipe, you know, grams in, grams out, and the seconds, the results are really good. Okay, espresso is done. Now let's make the Moka Pot. Alright, for Moka Pot I'm going to use the same coffee, so the same blend that I used for espresso, and I will do 17 grams, and I'm going to grind the coffee at 5, and I'm going to time like I did for espresso to see how long it's going to take to grind 17 grams of coffee with Pietro at 5. Definitely will take less because we have 2 grams less compared to espresso. It was 19, this one is 17, but let's see how long it's going to take to grind 70 grams of coffee of medium roast blend specialty grade at 5. It took 1 minute. 1 minute is kind of really good. It's alright. Okay, now let's prepare the Moka Pot, let's brew the coffee, and then I will share with you the characteristic of the kind of coffee that you get when you grind with Pietro. Okay, the mocha is ready. Now it's time to taste the coffee. Yeah, the coffee, as I said, it's very sweet, it's very balanced. You can feel like this mouthfeel that is very smooth from the beginning of the sip until the aftertaste that is long, is very pleasant. So there is no dryness. Yeah, it's completely sweet. It's really pleasant. So even for Moka Pot, it works the same as the espresso. You get a really nice texture, you get a really nice body, flavor, very distinct, very balanced, sweet cup. Very happy with the Moka. I have to say, the coffee is very good, performed well with espresso, with Moka, and now we make the pour over. Okay, for pour over coffee, the grind size I start to when I want to brew filter coffee is 8, and I'm going to grind 15 grams of coffee. Okay, for this brew I'm using coffee from Mexico, natural process Típica. It's a really good coffee, and now we're going to check how long it's gonna take. Okay, let's say it took 45 seconds to grind, 8. The coffee was a bit lighter than the blend I used before, so I didn't find any struggle, to be honest, to grind, but of course probably takes a bit longer because you need longer time to break up the beans and deliver the coffee into the jar. Now we're going to brew the coffee. I will use the Orea. Okay, the coffee is ready. I let it cool down a bit. It's very sweet. It smells like strawberry jam. Hello, sweetness. Compare when I grind the coffee using the same method with a conical Burrs grinder. I have to say, sweetness. Like sweetness, the balance. I think that, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, cooling down, the body gets heavier, and like the mouthfeel gets thicker. It's really good because there is no dryness at the end, like the aftertaste is really persistent. It's good quality. I mostly use Pietro for filter. I'm testing a lot for filter coffee in the recent period. So, and I can say that I achieved a really good cup of coffee. I have to be honest, I'm honest, the quality of grinding is outstanding. And this is the multi-purpose Burrs. So I'm not talking about the brewing. So you can just imagine, done with the filter coffee. For me, like making these 3 coffee was more like to share with you more or less what I take, how is the grinding with the actual, grinding the coffee or workflow, how is the workflow with Pietro, and just wanted to show you how usually I make the coffee when I'm home. I was very happy to use Pietro for the last weeks, and I think that it can be like a really solid grinder for my daily coffee routine. One last thing before wrapping up this video is the cleaning. For me, it's really important for the grinder to be easy to clean, and Pietro makes the life super easy. And this is one of the aspects that I really like about this grinder. To open the grinder is very easy, so just like open the lever, push the chrome button, twist and pull, and you have the Burrs out. So in this way it's very easy, it gives you like an easy access to the grinder. So using a brush you can easily clean the grinder, as you can see, and it's like very fast. You don't need to unscrew anything, and you can get like a really good cleaning of the Burrs and also like the inside. So cleaning the grinder is very easy and fast. And then to place it back, twist, release, and now it's ready. So for me, it's a really important aspect this for a grinder, because if I want to switch from a coffee to another, it's very easy to remove the previous coffee and then grind the following one. So this for me is a really important aspect, and with Pietro you can do it very easily. Okay, now let's wrap up some conclusion. I have to say that Pietro is a really good grinder, can deliver a really good particle size distribution. With a multi-purpose Burrs, it suits for a lot of brewing methods, from Turkish coffee to filter coffee, as I use it for this video. So It's really good quality of grinding. Then if you are more into filter coffee, you can change the burrs with the Pro Brewing. So I really like the fact that with this grinder you can change the burrs, something that with the conical burrs grinders usually you cannot do it. So that's for me, it's a positive thing about Pietro. The dials is very convenient, it's very easy to use, it's very solid, it's very steady. So I really like this aspect of the grinder. When we grind medium roast, dark roast coffee, it's very easy, smooth to grind. The negative thing is that when we use a light roast, maybe it's a bit more difficult to grind the coffee because the bean might stack, it's very hard to grind. The size and the weight, as I said at the beginning, is a bit big and heavy. So if you use it for home, it's a really good grinder. If you travel with it, it's a bit not really friendly, I would say, because the weight and the size. One thing is a bit confusing is about how to handle the grinder. We saw that different way. I tested with other people to see how they were doing it. It's a bit confusing. I'm afraid that this can ruin a bit the grinding experience with Pietro, but when you find your way to manage the grinder, then the thing is easy. Another thing is the lever and the leverage, the crank leverage of the grinder. It's a bit short, so it makes a bit more difficult to grind. Another thing is the dosing jar, that I don't really like it for the shape and the color, as we saw in the video. That can be a bit tricky sometimes to put coffee beans inside the grinder or coffee ground inside the brewer or the portafilter. It depends, like if you do espresso, mocha or filter coffee. And the color is a bit like too dark for me. You don't see very well the status of the bean inside, the dirtiness, if you need to clean, if you know there is some coffee oil inside, it's very hard to understand. We saw that by making the coffee, you can get a really nice, sweet, good body coffee. With a multi-purpose burst, you can get like good espresso, good mocha, and also a good filter coffee. So that's for me is a really positive aspect of this grinder. So that you can use it for different brewing method, and also with the dial it's very easy to switch from one brewing method to another. So that's like all these things together, it's a very positive for me. One last thing is that it's very easy to open and easy to clean, and that for me is a very positive aspect in a grinder. Now, the price of the grinder, if you go to the European Pietro website, starts from 370 euros for the multipurpose. If you choose the Pro Brewing, is 390 euros. On the US Fiorenzato website, the grinder is at $450 US. Okay, now just to clarify, this video is not sponsored by Pietro or Fiorenzato. I don't get any money for reviewing this grinder, and also I don't get any money if you decide to buy the grinder. So it's a very honest review, and there is no bias in what I said. Now I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the grinder? Do you have it? Do you like it? Are you planning to buy it? Let me know by dropping a message in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next videos, and in the meantime I wish you a wonderful day and delicious coffee.